Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on the election. If you haven't seen my video on Bitchute, it's because it still is trying to upload and process. I don't know, I guess it was too long. I'm going to try to do one here. There's certain things YouTube will ban me for saying, so I have to be extremely careful when I talk about the election now. Apparently you can say that the Democrats cheated, but you can't say certain things about if a certain candidate won. I got to be careful. I'm sorry, because BitChute I'm having problems, so we'll cover some of this stuff and talk about it in a roundabout way. But you already, I think, are clear on my feelings on the election. So I think we know what we're talking about. All right. So the latest. People are calling to go back to paper elections. This is from the Epoch Times. New GOP reps ask Pelosi to probe fraud. Good luck with that ask. That ain't going to happen. Pence campaigned in Georgia for the 2 Senate seats. Are they going to win? I have no idea. It's super close. If conditions remain the same, the conditions I've been talking about in the BitChute videos, then doubtful, in my view. On top of the fact that, it's really about Trump. People want these guys to support Trump. They're not really doing it. One sort of gave like a half-hearted, well, maybe, kind of, sort of. The other one just doesn't care. The GOP is made up of guys like Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. The moment things get tough, the moment they get what they want, they're gone. Now, the upshot of that is Trump knows that. He knew that going in. And, despite that, I'm sure he was still able to turn quite a few of the Republicans to his side. I mean, he has 126 in the House. Very excited about Trump because 126 representatives are contesting the election. I think I can say that. And you have state level guys sending dual electors. But the guys in the top of the GOP generally hated Trump from the beginning. They didn't want him in. They hated him. At some point, they had to accept him. They benefited from his, power, we'll say. And now that they perceive that power is going away, they are dropping off one by one. Now, to Mitch McConnell's credit, he did wait a while. Not that I'm defending the guy, but, it's not like I don't see him as being against Trump. I see him as a guy who just said, well, you had a good run, buddy. See ya. Same thing with Lindsey Graham. These guys, they've always been out on their own, and I think Trump knows that. But, there's still tons of court cases. The bad news is what I'm hearing about SCOTUS is this. An article came out, I don't know, today or yesterday. And it basically said people overheard some of the discussion that SCOTUS had. And what they heard was Justice Roberts screaming at people, saying, my God, we can't do this because they'll be rioting in the streets. That's a bad sign, because I do think Trump was counting on SCOTUS to rule in his favor. And all things being equal, I think, from the constitutional arguments, YouTube, they they had a good enough argument that they probably would have won. I think that's why they won't hear certain cases. They won't hear cases that, could overturn the election. They just won't hear them because they say, well, that'll overturn the election, so we don't have jurisdiction. Even though it's a case between states, and I was listening to a lawyer last night, and he made it clear that according to the law, these states have nowhere else to go but SCOTUS. There's no appeal process. They can't go to one of their own state Supreme Courts. They can't go to the opposite one. The only place they can go is SCOTUS. It's the only place they can get a ruling. And without a ruling, they get no justice. So it's not like the other cases where if SCOTUS dismisses it, well, it goes back down to a lower court. Or they fought in lower courts to get all the way up to SCOTUS, and if SCOTUS decides not to hear it, well, it's the lower court ruling that stands. This is a situation where they should have heard the Texas case, but it's the momentum of the status quo that says no, we don't want to do that. That's gonna really rock the boat, and historically, we don't want to be blamed for that. A lot of it's on them. A lot of it's about them and how they perceive themselves, which is often, they have immense egos. And it's not really about the law. It's not about doing their job. Because as anyone knows who's been in charge of anything, being the leader sucks. It isolates you. If you're on top making the decisions, everybody gets mad at you at one level or another. They do. Doesn't matter how much you're in charge. You'll always piss off somebody, even a little bit. Now, most people will tolerate it if you're reasonable and mostly fair. They'll tolerate it. But they don't like you. And that's what most people who get in leadership positions, they don't like that. That's why so many people in Congress are willing to abdicate their responsibilities. They don't like to take it because it makes them more unpopular. Ironically, in the long run, that makes the entire position unpopular. Like, you may have saved yourself, Roberts, a shellacking by people in the press, let's say, but in the long run, this degrades the institution as a whole, because then people look at SCOTUS as, well, oh, you can't get any justice there. They won't listen to things that won't make them look good. It's why Congress is so unpopular. People hate Congress because Congress, they're supposed to debate wars. You're supposed to declare war. And in order to do that, you have a debate in Congress. Should we go to war? Should we send soldiers? That's incredibly unpopular because if you go to war, even if you win, people are going to die. And the relatives left behind of those voters hate you. They'll hate you, most of them, because they'll blame you for their father, mother, whomever died. It doesn't matter that if that war was vital and necessary to strategic interest. And now, since the wars aren't really, they're more about making money, they're always incredibly unpopular. They won't even call them wars. They play these games. Well, it's not a war. We sent soldiers and killed people, but it's not a war. We occupy, we have a fort, and we have guns, and we have jeeps, and we have helmets. It's not a war, though. That's why they play those games. It's a way of manipulating you mentally. And so every politician is like that. Every SCOTUS judge, well, not everyone. I mean, you had two guys who were willing to hear the case, but surprisingly, Kavanaugh and the other Trump appointees didn't go to bat for him. part of that is probably like, well, we'll look totally biased then. Yeah, you would, but who cares? Um, it's more important. Your look in the press is not as important as this case being ruled upon. So if SCOTUS continues to kick the can down the road, they're only going to destroy SCOTUS. They'll destroy the very institution they work so hard to get into, that they want to protect so much. They protect it to death. They nurture it to death. This is why Trump, as the president, he's actually made the presidency better, because he's shown strength. He's shown confidence. And, our enemies fear us. The United States enemies now fear us because of Trump. They're relieved he's leaving office, if he leaves office. But they're not afraid of Biden. No. So let's see what else is going on. Michigan Secretary of State refuses to testify to state legislature on election. No surprise there. You'll probably have to drag her kicking and screaming to get in front of the court. Some Dominion machines can connect to the internet. Oh, we said that one yesterday. Oh, well, you didn't see it. Some of the Dominion machines can connect to the internet. The CEO acknowledged. Yeah, of course. We already saw that in some of the videos. Jenna Ellis, state legislatures key in path to Trump's victory. Yes, if that's going to happen, it's going to be because Pence, who counts the votes on January 6th, can credibly say either, one, I can't count the electors who have been sent by the Democratic governors or the ones who have been sent by the Republican legislatures. There's too much controversy, and I won't count either one. In that case, neither Biden nor Trump have enough electoral votes. It goes to a contingent election. Trump wins. Conversely, he could decide, well, I will only accept the state legislature electoral votes because those are the ones I see as valid. And he could just give it to Trump. He could also just say, well, I've seen a lot of things that indicate to me that the Republican electors are more valid. And I'm trying to be careful here. So, will Pence do that? I don't know, man. I don't know. Pence seems to me like a pretty straight-laced guy. I don't know how real he is, though. I don't know much about him other than what he seems to have served Trump well. Trump seems to have taken care of him pretty well. I mean, he gave him solid tasks to do that he could run on when, Trump is done running and he could be president. And I think that probably would have been his main goal, for his political career. And if he feels, as Trump does, and feels loyal to Trump, I think he would. But loyalty in Washington, D.C. is a fickle thing. We'll see. Judge rejects efforts to restore 200,000 Georgia voters before runoff. This may be a good thing. Let's check it out. This election I could talk about. A federal judge on December 16th rejected an effort to restore nearly 200,000 names to Georgia voting rolls before next month's U.S. Senate runoffs. Plaintiffs have shown that Georgia's list maintenance process may not be accurate in identifying voters who have actually moved. but they have not shown or even alleged that the process is applied differently to any class of voters. Here, there is no evidence at this stage that the list maintenance process is not uniformly applied. The judge said putting the names back on the rolls would impose a severe burden on the office of Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger if he administers the election and create confusion. Wow, we wouldn't want Brad Raffensperger to work too hard. Nice ruling. He also noted the voters had a year to re-register themselves, and some likely did so. Okay. All right. You've convinced me. That sentence right there turned it all around. These people had a year to re-register, and they wanted to vote. They should have. So, yeah. I don't know why they bothered to sue. Just re-register. I mean, send out a notice. Say you have to re-register. There's been a problem. End of story. So that's going on in there. In Georgia. Nevada was heating up. I can't tell you what they said about Nevada, but in the one article, but I can tell you that I agree with the Trump lawyer in Nevada. And here, there's Trump. Many thousands of non-citizens voted in Nevada. And the Trump lawyer took that a step further. But I can't say that because YouTube may ban me. So yeah, there's more cases going around, but who knows? Again, it all comes down to either SCOTUS gets back on board with some of these cases and rules in Trump's favor, or Pence gives it to Trump, or possibly the Hail Mary of Hail Marys, which I'll talk about in the next video. That is the executive order. But I think Trump wants to pursue every possible legal avenue. Not that the executive order wouldn't be illegal, but it could be, since it's new, I think it could be construed. You know, they could take him to court and said, well, you exceeded your authority, and therefore we're going to sue you, then we're going to impeach you, and then we're going to do the same with Pence. We'll get into the DNI report on foreign something. Well, I guess I could say it. Foreign interference in election expected next month now. That's going to be key, because that was key to the executive order. But again, let's talk about that in the next video. Peter Navarro releases the Immaculate Deception, a report about the 2020 presidential election. Some interesting stuff in this, mostly statistical, and some stuff you've heard of, but this is a little more concrete. Check that out at Just the News, which is turning into a pretty good site to find info. Georgia announces signature matching review of presidential election ballots, although I saw someone tweet that they're still keeping observers at bay. So they can't really see anything. So if they can't see anything, I don't know why they expect the observers to validate this process. But not that the election wasn't secure and wonderful. YouTube, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, see my Bitchute if it ever gets processed. So, yeah, that's where we are. A lot of legal stuff. No major developments today other than this guy. Oh, let me get to the article. There's a Senate-elect guy. He's only Senate-elect, and I'm not sure how he can do this because he gets elected, but I don't know if he'll be sworn in before the 6th, but maybe he will. But he's thrown his support behind the Electoral College Challenge, as did another person running or elect like him, Senate-elect. I think she was representative-elect. These guys they're Republicans, so they can easily say that, because I don't think they can actually do anything because they won't be elected until after the 6th. But, the word on the street is people are trying to call Rand Paul's office to convince him to be the senator to go along with the Alabama representative to, debate the election, which I would like to see. I would like to see Congress actually do their job and debate something of value. So I hope he does it. Even if we totally lose this thing, I hope you're forced to put all these Democrats on record for their arrogance. And let them spew their vitriol one last time against Trump. Put it all on record so people can see how angry and nasty they are, how power hungry they are. And let them go on and on about, ooh, you're trying to subvert democracy, even though it's perfectly legal and needed. Of course, it'll give the Republican rhinos a chance to grandstand and pretend like, oh, gee, I really wish Trump had won this thing. But even a guy like Mitt Romney probably won't even do that. So, in terms of winning this on a legal basis, it does not look good. And when I say legal basis, I mean in the courts. If SCOTUS isn't willing to take up these cases, that's it, man. That's it. That's it for that avenue. That really narrows down Trump's options. It's narrowed down to almost nothing. And the options he has left are not good. They are not good and not going to be easy. So we'll get into that in the next video. So no new Bitchute today. I don't know if my Bitchute, man, I uploaded this Bitchute exclusive twice. I can't upload this one to YouTube. They'll flag it immediately. Sorry. But it's not that big of a deal anyway. I think I've covered mostly everything. You should definitely be reading the Epoch Times if you haven't. I remember one thing from yesterday. Let's see. I believe it was Colorado jumped in the fray. They're doing some sort of court thing or investigation. Let's see. That was from yesterday. Wow, a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff happened today. Legal cases. Here we go. Pennsylvania Republicans ask Supreme Court to again review election lawsuit. We had a New Jersey rep demand Pelosi call out the 126 representatives. Van Drew, the Democrat in New Jersey who switched to Republican, dismissed the call. Good for you. Trump campaign files election lawsuit in New Mexico over ballot drop boxes. That was it too. So it was New Mexico, and there was an article about Colorado, but I don't see it. So yeah, I mean, you could see on the Epoch Times map how things are currently. These are all the places where there are court cases pending. Now New Mexico. But there were some hearings going on in Colorado, I forget. Oh, and Rudy Giuliani has a new video where he talks about the Hunter Biden scandal and other things connected to the various lawsuits, and he seems very frustrated as well. So we're all very frustrated that SCOTUS basically is just punting the ball down the field. I think they will come to regret that. They really will in the years to come, especially under a Biden administration, especially if he packs the court. I'll have little sympathy for them if Biden does that. They'll be screaming bloody murder. Who's going to come to their aid? If the Democrats win Georgia, there'll be almost nothing to do. No way to stop them. One thing that Trump and I don't know if the Republicans can do it. I don't think they have enough votes because they would also need the House, but they should have changed the rules back to the way they were with regard to judges and appointees. Now it's a 51 vote majority. So, but it's also likely that the Dems will make Washington, D.C. a state, Puerto Rico, and any other left leaning satellites that the U.S. still has in order to create more senators for themselves, and then they're going to pack the Senate. So it's not just about packing SCOTUS. They're going to pack the Senate. They're going to pack SCOTUS. So, because they know what's coming, their collapse is imminent. It's I explain it like this: if you're authoritarian, holding on to your constituents is like holding sand, and the tighter you squeeze, the more sand slips through your fingertips. These guys are going to lose a lot of these states in the coming years, despite their advantages, let's say, the advantages that I talked about in the Bitchute videos. They're going to lose. I'm confident of that. But then again, I was confident Trump was going to cream these guys. And I think he would have. But, you know, according to YouTube, it was an incredibly fair election. And that's all I can say about it.